GB News.
Where would you like to go?
Just take me to the studio, please, mate. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christie's, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. I'm your host for this evening, Stephen Allen. This is the show where my comedy panel, tonight consisting of Nick Dixon and Leo Kearse, will go through the newspapers for you. But before we start with that, let's get the latest news.
Thanks very much. Here's the latest from the GB Newsroom. Chicago police say they've identified a person of interest as they hunt for a gunman who killed at least 6 people at a 4th of July parade. SWAT teams are still hunting the suspect who opened fire in a wealthy suburb. A high-powered rifle has been recovered from the rooftop of a building overlooking the parade. The suspect is thought to be aged between 18 and 20. Close to 30 people have been taken to hospital, including a child who's seriously injured. Mayor of Highland Park, Nancy Rottering, says the community has been torn apart.
Our hearts go out to the families of the victims during this devastating time. On a day that we came together to celebrate community and freedom, we're instead mourning the tragic loss of life and struggling with the terror that was brought upon us.
At least one person has died following a gas explosion at a block of flats in Bedford. 3 others were taken to hospital, with witnesses describing the scene in the Redwood Grove area as an inferno. One person was seen jumping from a second-floor window to escape the flames. East of England Ambulance Service says a man was airlifted with serious leg injuries. 2 other people, including a firefighter, were taken to hospital suffering from smoke inhalation. Labour's deputy leader says Boris Johnson should have properly investigated rumours about Chris Pincher before promoting him to deputy chief whip. It comes after Downing Street revealed the Prime Minister was aware of speculations but did not think it appropriate to block his appointment. Chris Pincher was suspended from the Conservative Party and resigned after claims emerged that he groped 2 men last week. 6 new allegations have appeared since then, all of which Mr Pincher denies. Angela Rayner says Boris Johnson should have asked questions.
I mean, it sounds like a logical thing to do, but you ask, don't you? There's rumours flying around. Can I ask you the question? Is there anything that you've done that could be considered? And I would have investigated them. If I was the Prime Minister and somebody had said that, I'd have said, you know, these rumours, that's really serious. I want to investigate it. I want to find out if there's any truth to it. I think that's a logical thing.
Liz Truss says Britain and the free world have a duty to do whatever it takes to support Ukraine in rebuilding its economy as quickly as possible. Speaking at a recovery conference in Switzerland, the Foreign Secretary said President Zelensky wants the UK to champion the recovery of the capital, Kyiv, and the surrounding region.
We will push for immediate investment and to drive economic growth because it's absolutely imperative we get the Ukrainian economy going. We need to be able to support returning Ukrainians to Ukraine. We need to give people hope about the future, and we need to give them the means to be able to support themselves.
There's trust there. On TV, online and on DAB+ radio, this is GB News. Now let's get back to those headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. I'm Stephen Allen, and joining me, it's 2 comedians who are on this station so much they're also on the test card. If the signal drops, you get a picture of Leo Kearse and Nick Dixon. I won't say which one's the girl and which one's the scary clown. I'll leave you to find out. How are you both? How's it all going?
He's both.
Well, I think we're both scary clowns.
Well, that's true, actually. Well, you're more scary than me, aren't you?
Really?
You're like an aggressive, edgy comedian.
I'm only aggressive in the context of English people.
I see. That's what it is. This is the dream team from last night, lads.
Yeah.
It's me and Leo trying to convert you gradually to the ways of the truth.
Yeah. How's it going so far? You think you've converted me?
We got you to host Free Speech Nation, where you criticise woke people instead of like agreeing with them.
And you came in tonight and the first thing you said was Brexit means Brexit.
I couldn't help it. I couldn't. It just came out of my mouth. It's weird. Wow, what do you put in my tea? Well, let's start by taking a look at tomorrow's front pages. We start with the Daily Mail. Has the headline, Pretty, arrest the protest mob. A day of action hits motorways and summer of chaos looms. Now we move on to the Daily Telegraph. Starmer clashes with party on Brexit. We'll get into that story today. Also, Welsh councils to put cap on second homes, although I suppose there is already a cap, because if you buy more than one, that'd be a third one, wouldn't it? For the front page of The Independent, Johnson had first-hand account of assault claims. It's in quotes, and it's interesting that they mention hands. We move to the front page of The Guardian. Parliament urged to act over sexual abuse claims. Also, they've got a picture of this art attack, as they call it, to climate change protesters who've stuck themselves to a constable. And no wonder they're going to get arrested. Front page of the Financial Times. Germany records deficit in goods trade for the first time in 30 years. The front page of The Mirror. PM changes his story again. Johnson, I did know about Pincher. Finally, Boris admits he'd heard sex pest claims and Carrie concerned 5 years ago. The Sun has a picture of Victoria Beckham. Posh. Harper hates my miniskirts, so big news at the top corner there. And then the serious story reported by bruised victim Prem star in 3am rape arrest is their main headline. To the Metro, Britain on a go-slow. Rail, air, now our motorways come to a standstill. And then we finish with the Daily Star. Cost of living crisis update. Hard-up smokers are turning to fake fags filled with insect eggs, fungi and even poo. And they've gone with the headline, Puff Duty. And those are your front pages. Well, let's start then into the actual meat of what's inside the newspapers. We then find out what's been happening with Starmer and his take on Brexit.
Yes, Keir Starmer promises to make Brexit better, not rejoin the EU. This is in the Times. And I sort of feel like he's been talking to Tony Blair, because it's suspiciously similar to the line Blair took in a recent podcast with Alistair Campbell, which was that both Starmer and Blair used to want that second referendum. They were campaigning for it. Then they changed their mind on it. And it's quite funny to hear Starmer say, we need to make Brexit work. We don't need to... Yes, he's saying we don't need to reverse it. Oh, yeah, people are saying we need to reverse it. He's saying I couldn't disagree more. So he's being a bit like, I couldn't disagree more, but shortly, not that long ago, you did think we should reverse it. Anyway, so he's coming out with this 5-point plan. Not totally clear exactly what the points are, but they're around... One of them is about the Northern Ireland Protocol, sorting that. Bringing the science institutions back into the EU Horizon funding scheme, new security pact, and then some vague cost of living stuff. So it's Starmer trying to sort of win back the red wall. I don't know if it's a particularly strong bid for that, but then again, the Tories are so weak, it might be enough.
Well, he's sort of trying to play both sides, because he's saying, yeah, no, we're going to keep Brexit, but the Brexit he envisions is a lot like when we're in the EU. So we'll do away with... We'll do away with the sort of trade regulations, which mean we'll have the same regulations across, for example, cheese. So we won't need to have onerous forms and paperwork when we transport cheese to France, or France transports cheese to us. So it'll make the cheese trade, for example, a lot more fluid. But I don't think Brexit was ever about imposing, sovereignty was never about imposing trade regulations. It was about, other things, control over our borders and things like that. And Brexit, there's a couple of things that Brexit is actually allowing us to move ahead in. So there's gene editing technology that the UK is looking at, which is not... They can't research it in Europe, but we can in the UK, because we're not covered by the EU ban on it. And that could improve crop yields, just feed the world, basically.
I do see what you mean about playing both sides. I was a bit suspicious when he said we should retain freedom of movement and a nice blue flag. I was a bit suspicious, but he does say, to be fair, I don't know why I'm being fair to Starmer. I'm balancing the right wing of Leo, but it's saying we should... He does say we shouldn't join the single market and we're not joining the customs union, so yeah, he's not totally going back.
I'm just amazed he didn't say, what is Brexit?
Yeah,
I don't know what
is
a Brexit is. What is a Brexit? I'm not a historian or a geographer. I don't know what a Brexit is.
But I told him earlier on that Brexit means Brexit, so he's got the definition.
Right.
Now I've got a T-shirt. Brexit noun. Brexit.
It's something that feels like a Brexit.
Right.
But are we not missing the big news here?
Yes.
Keir Starmer has a policy. This is the thing that people have been waiting for, at least, whether you like it or not. It's a thing that you can write down.
You're right, he's got 5 points all at once.
It's more than the Labour Party's had for about 10 years now, isn't it?
That's a good amount of points to have as well, because 2 points isn't enough. But sometimes politicians have like just pages and pages of points, and you can't, remember it.
Tony Blair was good. He had education, 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 same point 3 times.
Yeah, yeah.
And that hits the left-wing voters. That hits at their level.
Yeah, then you remember it.
Hits the word count without actually needing any content.
Yeah.
Very much like any newspaper columns I ever get around to writing.
But not like this show.
No. Let's move in now to Tuesday's Guardian next, and something tells me this isn't the first time the BBC have had to deal with something like this, Leo.
Yeah, so Tim Westwood, who's a BBC DJ, the BBC has revealed it received complaints against Tim Westwood, including one that was referred to the police, despite previously insisting it was unaware of any concerns about the DJ's behaviour, which, they didn't learn any lessons from Jimmy Savile, Gary Glitter, Dave Lee Travis, Rolf Harris, Chris Denning, John Earl, Alan Freeman, Alan Fossey, Jonathan King, Chris Langham, John Peel, Craig McMurdo, Michael Souter, or Michael Willis. So, they've had a few opportunities to learn this lesson.
Especially do that from memory as well. You're so angry about it. You go around with that in your head, just memorised.
I spent ages writing those names down. So I could...
I didn't realise there were so many. That is a lot.
Yeah. Well, Tim Davie, who's the Director General of the BBC, he said when Tim Westwood was brought down and there's the documentary about him, I think on the 26th of April there was an investigation published, and the day after the story broke, Davie said he'd seen no evidence of complaints, but the BBC has now confirmed it received 6. I'm pretty sure this is because Davie wasn't informed of this. I think, this could just be bureaucracy rather than Tim Davie trying to cover up, a DJ. Because why would you? Why would you cover up for a disgraced DJ?
Right, good point. No, it's not their thing. But if you go into it, it says they're reviewing 6 complaints. Apparently one of them is a complaint that he was a middle-class white man pretending to be black. That was one of the main complaints.
The weird thing about this story, though, is the reason we find out about this, because the BBC loves to eat itself. There's nothing they love other than kind of trying to criticise themselves to show they're above criticism. It's BBC News that complained about the BBC's response to a Freedom of Information request.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's good that the BBC News does investigate the BBC, even though it's a monolithic organisation. It's not like the Catholic Church. You can rely on BBC News to investigate, the weather girl or whatever it is.
The Stonewall thing was good when Nolan investigated the BBC about Stonewall. That was one of the best bits. He tore the BBC to shreds on the BBC. But can I just also add, for legal purposes, the DJ Westwood has consistently denied all allegations against him. That's very important to get that in.
But can I also...
That keeps our job.
Can I also add...
I don't think you should, but go on. We're all nervous.
Is it about Prince Andrew?
No, just in the BBC, having this monolithic corporation with so much power gives rise to abuses of power like this. I did a Fringe show in 2012, and with a gay comedian, and he was preyed on by a some BBC comedy person who was all like, "Oh, come to my hotel, I can make it happen." Obviously, I was like, "Go," you know what I mean? This, you need the boost at the moment, but he didn't. But it was, it's very predatory, very creepy. I'd have been there in a flash, you know what I mean? Like right on Harvey Weinstein, but like. It still shouldn't be allowed. But in many ways, it's the way I'm held back because BBC comedy people never want to predate on me.
Yeah, and also, they still owe me 100 quid. And that's not libel or slander because that's just me giving you a fact.
Every time I mention the BBC, that comes up. It would be easy for them just to pay.
I know.
They could pay you off and silence this.
My fans expect that.
Do you think it's their greatest crime, Nick?
It's up there.
Tuesday's Express now and more Boris gossip, Nick.
This is a great one. Diane Abbott sends BB show into chaos. It's the BBC again, claiming Boris...
Don't they owe you some money?
It's 200 quid. So Diane Abbott said that Boris was rumoured to like assaulting women. So they were talking about Pincher, as we know the Pincher story. We covered it ad nauseam, Chris Pincher. And they were saying, would it have been treated differently if it was a woman that had been assaulted rather than a man? She said it might, but that's because Boris Johnson has been rumoured to be the one who likes assaulting women. So she went in there with that. If any of us said it, we'd get sued into oblivion. But Diane Abbott lives in a different realm. She says things... Remember when she said that on BBC One, she said, on balance, Mao did more good than harm. That's Mao who killed, what was it, 100 million, 80 million? Does anyone know? Imagine if she said that about Hitler.
Yeah.
Career over.
Yeah.
With this bizarre double standard, you can say it about Mao. That was on, I remember watching it live. It was on This Week, you know, with Andrew Neil, big GB News fan. And the BBC, of course, jumped in, to be fair to them, and said, that's not been printed this morning. Paddy O'Connell said, it's not being said by the BBC. Diane, you've got to answer my questions rather than raising new claims. And then they got rid of that bit of the show. It's quite a funny line from a spokesman here. For editorial reasons, we're editing today's episode. Is there any other reason? Editorial, bit of a tautology there, but OK. They got rid of that bit, though, funnily enough, they left in bits where she said pincher by name, pincher by nature. So they left in some stuff, but they cut out the clearly slanderous bit.
Yeah, but I mean,
is it slander or libel? If it's said, but it's on a show, does it become libel again?
I think
because libel's written.
Slander and libel, they actually just come under defamation now, so they're not separate. Separate laws.
Good to know for our future shows.
But I can understand what Paddy had to do, the apology. Someone this morning asked me if I were going to get in trouble because of your Prince Andrew joke last night. The fact that they think, because I have to apologise for your jokes if you say something that, and then they tell me in the ear that I have to. As if, like, I'm now going to be sent to prison because of one of your jokes. If that were the deal, no one would host this.
Leo kills 6 people and Steve's in the dark.
Well, let me tell you some rumours I've thought up about Diane Abbott. And I think they've got just as much veracity as anything she comes up with. No, I think it's absolutely shocking that she can come out with, you know, unbased. All right, if you've got evidence, if you've got some sort of credible... People have come to you with stories and they're willing to go on the record or go to the police, but you can't just smear a man's reputation saying this kind of thing, because, you know, otherwise we're going to go around saying anything. I could say that Diane Abbott had a fling with Jeremy Corbyn when they're on tour in the USSR.
And yet it's very harsh to say it about Boris, who has a spotless record with women.
Tuesday's Financial Times, and if abandoning ship applied to planes, this would be it, Leo.
Yes, so the chief operating officer of Easyjet has quit over the flight chaos. So Easyjet hasn't had the best few weeks or months, or even the best couple of years. The carrier has been forced to cancel thousands of flights in response to staff shortages, which have disrupted the industry this summer, with some of the most damaging occurring during the UK school half-term in June, when obviously, you know, everybody's going on holiday and it's very busy. So EasyJet's management have insisted, you know, they don't have a staffing problem. These flight problems were actually caused by problems at airports, so low staff at airports with baggage handlers, security checks and stuff like that. And they've recruited more than 1,700 staff this year. But it doesn't quite ring true, because they were removing seats so they could fly with fewer staff, which suggests that they didn't have enough staff. But anyway, so Peter Bellew, the chief operating officer, he's standing down. He's going to stay with them to ensure a smooth transition to the next round of chaos.
Yeah. I always find that a bit funny that the sort of disgraced or failed person stays on to ensure... It's like you getting sacked for your Prince Andrew comments, then staying on to ensure compliance for the next...
To make sure I do some more Prince Andrew comments.
Exactly. It's funny, isn't it? You never hear bad PR about EasyJet, but it's a tough story for them. I mean, if they can't get their flights set, they should change their name to Difficult Jet. Am I right? Is this even on? Anyone?
That's quality.
Thank you very much.
Is that you're out on that?
I'm ending on that, yeah, that was it. That's all you get.
Beautiful. Tuesday's Sun, and maybe this flight needed extra turbulence warning, Leo.
Oh, yes, so another EasyJet one. This is more EasyJet drama. So passengers were left stunned when their flight was intercepted by a fighter jet after an alleged bomb threat from a teenage Brit. And it's now emerged that the security alert was sparked by a British holidaymaker, 18, who made the bomb threat while he was on board. And so there's footage. Don't go look at it now. Wait until the show's finished. We need your eyeballs. But a Spanish F-18 warplane flew close to the Airbus and wiggled its wings like this, which is apparently a signal that says, you know, follow me. Although, I mean, if he then does loop the loops, I don't think the Airbus could keep up with that. But apparently, this teenage Brit, who's only doing what British people are supposed to go on holiday and cause chaos. We're not allowed to invade and have wars and stuff anymore. You know, slay Napoleon at Waterloo or whatever happened, I'm not totally sure. But we are allowed to go and, you know, throw plastic chairs around, you know, get naked in the town fountain and call in bomb threats when we're on the plane. And he's expected to face a large compensation bill, which is going to include the costs of the police operation and the scrambling of the military jet. That's if he's found guilty. So I hope he's got a good paper round.
But his friends will think he's a legend.
Yeah, absolutely. He'll never pay for another drink in Wetherspoons again.
My favourite bit about the video, we don't have it, but it's the plane's doing its thing, and you can hear a woman say, "What's it doing? Is it just showing off?" No, it's intercepting you. So yeah, it must have been weird, but yeah.
Into Tuesday's Telegraph for the next story. We mentioned this as well in the front pages. A protest caused slow traffic on the M4, so it's just like any other day, really, Nick.
Yeah, this is Go Slow Fuel protesters block motorways across Britain, bringing rush hour chaos. Yes, a bit of a change there. Now we've seen lots of people gluing themselves to things. Roads was the latest one in the F1, and we've seen, obviously, paintings. This is actually an actual good sort of protest with a reasonable cause for once, because this is about the surging cost of petrol and diesel. And the complaint is that it's also about the pumps, the chronic manipulation of pump prices. So they're saying, why has it not been passed on to the consumer? You know, they've complained that pump prices have remained high even after wholesale costs have fallen. So it's quite a reason. What they're doing is they're driving at 30 miles an hour. And the idea is you don't get arrested for that. So 12 people have somehow been arrested anyway, but you shouldn't get arrested if you stay above 30. And, you know, it's causing disruption, but it's, you know, petrol prices are mental.
But it seems weird to punish drivers when it's something that's hurting drivers.
Well,
like, you wouldn't protest against whales by going and, like, punching them in the blowhole. You know,
Yes.
like if whales were suffering. You wouldn't protest, you know, if something was hurting comedians. You wouldn't go to a comedy club and stop people doing comedy or make them do it really slowly.
How many of these analogies have you got?
I've got, how long's the show? But, I mean, they do have a point, because oil prices aren't actually that high. So they're about, what, $110 a barrel for Brent crude. So around, between 2010 and 2014, oil was consistently around $100 to $120 a barrel, and petrol prices didn't go this high. So I think, you know, people are, ever since lockdown, I've noticed this, restaurants have put the prices up. Everybody's seen a chance to grab a bit more money. And this could be predatory sort of price fixing by the oil cartels, by the pump cartels.
Do you not think it was a little bit, you know, the petrol shortage that time when we all had to queue, when we showed the petrol stations how desperate we are for petrol, and they just thought, all right, then we'll make it £2.
Yeah.
They're slowly making it there because we should have been more stoic and been like, no, we'll walk.
Yeah.
Petrol
Absolutely.
boycott, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, dude, actually, there was a petrol boycott, because I'm old enough to remember, was it early 2000s, the petrol strikes, and people were refusing to buy petrol on so many days so we could send a message, whereas now, no. We could all agree that boycott, but then we'd all secretly sneak off to the nearby petrol station, get a Twix and a full tank.
No societal cohesion because of what the left have done.
Is it? Is it just the
Blair's
left's fault?
legacy.
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I thought-
Cultural decline.
Yeah.
Evolution.
This well-balanced show that I'm getting to sit here and watch, isn't it? Coming up, China spying on us. Will Nadine Dorries take over the internet, and an RAF drone squadron that's got no drones? It's all on the way.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV, on radio,
On digital, absolutely everywhere.
we don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices with honest and civilised conversation.
We are not part of the establishment. We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know. The latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Where would you like to go?
Just take me to the studio, please, Matt. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christie's, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Stephen Allen, joined by the fair and balanced panel of Nick Dixon and Leo Kearse. Let's move into Tuesday's Metro. Is our CCTV watching us, Leo?
Well, it could be. A group of 67 parliamentarians have called on the UK government to ban the sale and use of Chinese surveillance equipment in the UK. So the ban has been proposed on the widely used Chinese CCTV brands Hikvision, which is made in a little village in Virginia, and Dahua, over their links to human rights abuses in China. So they're closely linked to the genocide in Xinjiang. And also we've got to remember the rest of China is the most surveilled society in the world. There's concerns, and also, several government departments, including the Home Office and the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, have Hikvision cameras visibly in use on the front of their buildings. And these cameras, there's some concerns that these can be hacked by the Chinese government so they can get intelligence and data flowing back to China. And obviously, if it's the Home Office, you don't want them knowing, who's going in and out of the Home Office.
And who's grabbing the buttocks of whom? Because that was not in that office. But, I mean, the CCTV can bring down politicians.
As we saw with Matt Hancock.
Yeah. I love this story because it's about how only UK should be able to spy on the UK. Do you know what I mean? It's like, don't get involved in our spying. We're surveilling our citizens to unprecedented levels, but let's not have the Chinese this. It's quite funny. But, and I have a similar joke about Hikvision, but you've nicked it. But it's everything, it's cool, I'm over it. Everything about China, it's funny, you always have to say, but is it spying on us? There was the Huawei phones, and it's like, maybe let's not use them. They're giving us a load of free phones, but it's a bit dodgy, It's like, and then there was TikTok, and it's like, is TikTok just spying on us? This is a constant question. And I said the other day, it's probably a psyop to demoralise us. And these companies have also been found to ethnically profile people in China. So they're very, it's not the kind of thing you want to be involved with. You don't really want to. We should almost stop getting clothes from China just in case your pants are spying on you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, there's some merit in that, and also because they're made, and a lot of times they're made by slave labour, which it's bad. A lot of people just think the stuff that happened 400 years ago is bad, but some people think that the slavery that's happening now is bad as well. And there are
more slaves alive today than ever. You were going to say
that. That's right. I was
Sorry.
going to say that. 40 million, apparently, in the world.
We've read the same Douglas Murray tweet.
But it is,
it's really that balance, when you both get to say jinx quite a lot.
You're the balance, Steve. You're so powerful, just you.
Give us the balance.
And you're so far left that it balances us out.
Give us the far left view about why slavery now is okay.
But in the tech side of this, surely you should be able to put a rule in that is, you know what, if this camera is going to be near something that's important, we should be able to see all the code. And then you just get some nerd who knows about code to make sure that it's not something that you can backdoor and use to then spy on our government.
It sounds too complicated.
But hang on, why wouldn't the Chinese just come up with a more complicated code that beats our code?
They'll have, like in films...
I totally understand what you just said.
One.
Like in films or in Travellers, that Netflix series that they discontinued because Netflix always discontinue anything good and put on, ridiculous stuff with Muppets trying to turn children into...
Anyway, we all know where that sentence ends, don't we?
They did, but anyway, it doesn't matter. But why... in those shows, there's always like backdoor code that could be written in hieroglyphics that's like behind it that the UK coder won't be able to see. So I don't trust the Chinese cameras.
So for safety reasons, we should only let China invest in our nuclear power stations.
I don't think we should. We should buy modular power stations from Rolls-Royce, a good British company.
And the modular ones will be made quicker, but that very much feels like a different topic. Tuesday's Times, more tech news, though, to worry about, Nick.
Yeah, similar story. Chinese AI can hack... I'm still on the last story. Can check loyalty of party members. So Hefei Comprehensive National Science Centre said the system could read face expressions and brainwaves, analysing how attentive a member was to thought and political education so as to further solidify their confidence and determination to be grateful to the party, listen to the party and follow the party. See, I was worried that was going to be sinister, but it was fine. So, I mean, look, this is incredibly dodgy. Hopefully, this is how China loses, because we've all been a bit disturbed by the effectiveness of the kind of authoritarian corporatism of China. It's like, we didn't realise... People thought naively that capitalism came hand in hand with freedom. It turns out, no, you can do a new horrible spin on it. And that's what China have done. But where I hope we beat them is that when it's this ridiculous, when you're coming up with apps to monitor people, I mean, another part is you can get points. You get a daily quota of 40 points by reading 4 articles, each taking 4 minutes, and watch 3 9-minute videos and answering questions. And they're all about how great the party is, of course. How great is the party? Really great, really, really great, amazingly great. It's all stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I imagine.
And then if you select the just really great one, you go straight to Gulag.
Yeah.
And then you're making
with that missing
trousers,
tennis player,
making jackets for Nick.
Exactly.
I mean, you say this is how we beat China. This stuff's coming in the UK and Western liberal democracy as well, but it's coming in voluntarily through HR departments, equality, diversity, and inclusion departments. So we're introducing all these rules, all these checkboxes, this ideology you've got to follow. It's just not being imposed by Xi Jinping.
Well, I was going
to say there is a difference though. There's a step change difference between rules that get brought in by a person, which you can agree with or not agree with, and yeah, there could be pressure to agree with it. But AI that can tell what you're thinking by looking at your face. All of those stories that the Daily Mail often have, and the response is, oh, it's like the thought police. And it's not, whereas that is the thought police, isn't it? It actually measures your thoughts.
It totes the thought police. And that's what's so funny about China is that they're open about thought control. Like you said, I was thinking that we always have that here. We're like, oh, this is like thought control. But in China, they've got drones saying, give up your thirst for freedom. Do you remember that in the tower blocks?
Whereas here we've got HR managers saying it.
Well, I was going to get onto that, Leo, and say that it's our great shame that we took on the lockdown policy from China, and we should be so ashamed of that because, yes, Chinese-style policies are creeping in here. But my earlier comment was a more hopeful comment that can you really have growth and innovation when you're treating people like this? My hope is that it kind of falls apart.
It's already falling apart. So Xi Jinping has really cracked down on tech and on finance in China, and it's really stifling productivity and innovation and growth. So it is going to. And we did see people. All authoritarian societies eventually crumble. Look at the USSR.
And we did a story the other day about how people were fleeing, wealthy people are leaving China. Unfortunately, they're also leaving here as well, so I'm not sure what that
Where are they going?
Sure. Yeah, they're going somewhere.
They're all going to Australia, weirdly, on this map, and Singapore, more obviously. But
I want to go to Australia.
But there you'll be in a camp.
you say that it's
I like camping.
That it's going to ruin innovation. They've managed to invent AI that can read your thoughts. They're doing quite well in terms of innovation.
That is true. Can I just say I meant a camp for like vaccines and stuff. That was what I meant, not because you're Scottish.
Right, yeah. And we've got a test that can work out your porn star name.
Really?
Yeah.
What's that?
Well, you take the name of your first pet and your mother's maiden name.
Right. But you're halfway into being able to log into my bank account, so I'm not going to answer that.
And then you put your sort code and...
Well, that's useful. I do see what you mean, Steve. Like, if you become so authoritarian that it's just the Matrix, then it could be incredibly productive.
Yeah.
But if you don't quite achieve Matrix level, it could just fall apart.
Or they might win.
There's that.
Worrying times. Tuesday's Telegraph. Nadine Dorries. Will she be able to censor the internet? Maybe, but definitely not spell check it, Leo.
Yeah, so Nadine Dorries, who set up an OnlyFans account during lockdown, is now trying to get it deleted. No, that's not the story, unfortunately. This is more. But Nadine Dorries has basically looked at what the Chinese government is doing to the internet and thought, that looks good, let's do it, but harder. So she's the culture secretary. She'll be able to censor the internet unless new powers intended to make tech giants more accountable are reformed. This is the online safety bill. So MPs are warning that in its current form, the bill would allow Ms Dorries to directly intervene in Ofcom's decisions over what to block or permit online by making changes to its code of practice. I mean, this is a really worrying bill because it puts a huge onus on tech firms to be responsible for anything that's posted. So they're going to be really risk-averse and make sure that anything that's potentially offensive or harmful is the word they use. This comes under the new sort of safetyism culture where, oh, you misgendered me, that harms me. Well, it doesn't, it's just a word.
It's like a YouTube violation. As long as you never explicitly state the metric that you have to stick to, you can go, oh, no, you've definitely violated the thing that I've thought of.
Yeah.
And then you don't explain yourself.
So they've got things like legal but harmful speech, which is a new category of speech, means nothing. They've got misinformation, so the government can basically decide what's misinformation, what isn't. And they can also decide what's journalism and what isn't. So it's quite worrying.
I'm going to be really fair to Nadine Dorries, because I've watched interviews with her. I think her heart's in the right place in that she wants to stop young people going into self-harm forums and these suicide forums. She wants to stop them seeing pornography all the time. And I think that is a noble impulse. But yes, of course, the issue is, I mean, do you want big tech or government regulating the internet. I mean, I looked up Hobson's choice in the dictionary, and it was this story. I mean, you've got battle. It's just different regulators trying to regulate each other. Obviously, big tech's horrific. Then you go, oh, would we want the government regulating it? And then Ofcom are complaining because they've employed Ofcom to do this, but Ofcom are saying, well, the government's now regulating us, or we're worried they're going to regulate us too much. So it's all these regulatory bodies regulating each other. Maybe just scrap them all. Obviously not Ofcom. We love Ofcom here. They give us the opportunity to hear lots of a diverse range of woke views. Go on.
But the problem is, though, that if you have this rule, which you can say, oh, look at all of the good intentions, this rule is in place to stop young people going into forums to do with self-harm. If the same rule can, by either this government or 3 governments later, be used to edit out anything bad about them about the internet, that's why you can't afford to... It's the slippery slope. You can't afford to set up a rule that could be turned into a weapon.
Yeah. But you're looking at who is more sinister, and big tech are so sinister. Do you know what I mean? When they're getting rid of the President of the United States, you're going like, maybe we need the government to rein in these people? You know what I mean?
Yeah, but this isn't the way. And for all that, they want it to stop people self-harming. I think this is going to make the internet so rubbish people want to self-harm.
Tuesday's Times, and many Americans don't want Joe Biden in 2024, a problem which Mother Nature may solve, Nick.
Well, yes, there is that. I mean, this is in the Times. Yeah, 70% of Americans don't want Joe Biden in 2024. As you've just said, Harvard Cap's Harris poll is showing this. And shockingly, only 30% of Democrats would even vote for him in a Democratic presidential primary. So, and this shouldn't be that surprising in a way, because we heard rumours even before Biden came in that, oh, he won't last the term, and there was rumours it would be Kamala Harris. She's kind of been sidelined. You'll notice she's been getting all the sort of rubbish jobs. Biden's being sidelined. My prediction is Gavin Newsom for 2024. He's bought $105,000 of advertising in Florida to have a little pop at DeSantis and Trump. He didn't name them. He had like a picture of them, and he's sort of trying to appeal to Floridians. That's what most people are saying. We could end up, excitingly, with DeSantis versus Gavin Newsom, the kind of hero of America, freed the people of Florida, versus the kind of cartoon, baddie, American psycho Gavin Newsom, who looks and behaves like a corrupt mayor at the start of a Batman movie. So I'd like to see that particular battle. Of course, it could be Trump. Trump hasn't announced yet. People say he's waiting to see how his picks do and to see what his popularity still is. But although he has, of course, said on many occasions, I think you're going to be very happy. He said all that, hasn't he? But he won't exactly say yet, and there's rules around that. But it could be Trump versus Newsom. It could be... That's probably the most likely, actually.
And for balance on this, we turn
I mean, I think the only thing that's going to stop Trump walking back into the White House, as he should have done a couple of years ago, but the only thing that's going to stop it is Trump dying.
Or a dodgy election.
Or a dodgy...
That never happens.
Can never happen
it never
in America.
happens.
But, I mean, to be honest, I think it's bad. I'd rather see Rick DeSantis, somebody, young and maybe a bit more tethered to reality with more experience
Ron
DeSantis. What did I call him?
Rick. That's the hip, even younger, hipper. Hey, it's Rick DeSantis, his son. Yeah.
Isn't that almost a Rick from Rick and Morty?
That's what threw me. Oh, my God, because I feel like the right wing, especially in America right now, we had a couple of years of being the fun people. We were against, intolerance and against... we're standing up for individual rights and fighting back against lockdown and stuff like that. And now it's changed. Now the right are becoming the people restricting freedoms with the abortion rollback.
Well, now, see, this is where me and Leo are going to disagree.
It is, isn't it?
If we have time. I mean, well, no, he's wrong. But no, Leo complains. You think there's no balance. Leo's not really a conservative. He's a neocon, maybe he's a neo-lib.
Yeah,
he's
woke.
Neocon. He's very woke. And
all the best
he's
people.
Extremely socially liberal. Obviously, I think there was a good ruling the other day, overturning Roe versus Wade, giving it back to the states. But Leo doesn't, you see, so we're different.
It doesn't make sense because the people...
You mean conservatives are being conservative again and you don't like it because you're not one?
No, but they should be fiscally conservative. And,
you're right.
Not this ridiculous socially conservative. I mean, pragmatically, they should do what's pragmatically the right thing and also reflect the will of the people. So the people don't want... Overall, the people, even in states like Tennessee and places like that, the people don't want a complete ban on abortion. They just want sensible limits, like maybe 15 weeks, something like that.
A lot of them are imposing that. But Virginia, Mississippi, 15 weeks.
No, some of them are imposing an outright ban, and I think there's 6 states imposing an outright ban, and it's not reflecting the will of the people. And the problem is, it's a weird quirk of electoral arithmetic where the only opposition to a Republican candidate is another Republican candidate. So he's got to be the most Republican candidate. It's like me going head to head with Nick.
Yeah, we don't have time to get into this because it's not really related to the story, but it does prove once more you're not a conservative. You're a sort of Thatcher free market liberal.
You're tethered to ideology. You won't understand reality and pragmatism.
You hate social conservatism because you're a hedonist degenerate.
Fun to watch the schism begin. That's what that was. Tuesday's Express. And there's one thing that you would guess an RAF drone squadron would have, and you'd be wrong. Leo, tell us more.
So this is the Royal Air Force. They've got they're supposed to have a futuristic and ambitious drone squadron, but there's been a Freedom of Information request, and it's revealed that this drone squadron that plans to harness drone swarms just consists of 4 personnel, and they don't have any drones. So I'm not exactly sure what they're doing. They're just sitting around with those Xbox joypads, pretending they're controlling them. These drones, I mean, drones are vital in modern warfare. This is a specific drone operation. I'm sure we've got lots of drones that do other things like, you know, artillery spotting or dropping big bombs. These ones are swarm drones, so they go up like a flock of starlings and they swarm enemy air defences, and then
it confuses them, so it has too many targets.
Exactly, and they waste all their missiles, and then you can get in there and blow up their bunker or wedding if you're in Afghanistan. Which is what they hit most of the time, which nobody seems to remember Obama doing that. But anyway, I'm getting away from the point. We're seeing it in Ukraine. You know, they're using drones, and it's really effective. They're using the Bayraktar drones from Turkey to deliver bombs, you know, taking back Snake Island and stuff like that. And they're also using commercial drones that you can get just in the shops. You can go down to Curry's and get, you know, a DJI drone. So DJI, which is a Chinese company, have actually stopped selling drones in Ukraine. Because they don't want their drones being used in war. The real reason is that they're controlled by the Chinese government. The Chinese government doesn't want to help Ukraine. It wants its pals Russia to win. So, yeah.
So maybe are they that futuristic that simply they've gone beyond drones? The future of drone technology, no drones?
You mean just like thought drones, like it goes beyond, yeah. I don't know, Steve, because I got a bit bored of this story, so I've just written, I blame wokeness / the left.
You've written that on everything. That's just your default setting. We should just get you a stamp made. It'd save you all that writing.
This is a great story. This is all about...
But I knew you covered it so well.
Oh, thank you, Nick.
Coming up after the break, the Minion movie madness at the cinema, the Scouts Go Woke, and the social media platform for snowflakes.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV.
On radio.
On digital. Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices with honest and civilised conversation.
We are not part of the establishment. We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel. Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know. The latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Where would you like to go?
Just take me to the studio, please, mate. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christie's, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Stephen Allen, doing the papers with the expert opinions of 2 comedians, Nick Dixon and Leo Kearse, one of whom's just run back in from the toilets. See if you can work out which one it is based on the breathing. Tuesday's Daily Star, a trophy hunter was hunted, Nick.
Yep, notorious trophy hunter who shot elephants. I'm a bit out of breath. Notorious trophy hunter who shot elephants and lions Gunned down in execution murder. This is trophy hunter Rian Nuade, may well be the pronunciation. This was in South Africa. To be fair, not that hard to get shot in South Africa, but he didn't help himself by posting multiple pictures of him with massive elephants and giraffes that are dead, not saying at all that means he deserves to get shot. Unfortunately, Twitter kind of was saying that, Twitter being Twitter. The most, here's the one tweet. One social media user wrote, "Hunter hunted, there is party in animal heaven. I'm not happy, but animals should not be anyone's trophy." So, you know, that's the problem, isn't it? People are very passionate about animals, so when you shoot a lot of them and then you get shot, people don't care that much, which is sad.
Well, yeah, and this is the thing, because trophy hunting, even though it looks on the face of it to be cruel, you know, he's shooting giraffes and lions and whatever, which seems nasty, but the money, the revenue that goes into hunting, trophy hunting, means that land is set aside and preserved that's perfect habitat for these animals that are hunted. So it's actually ecologically beneficial. And it's the same in this country with grouse shooting. So grouse moors are preserved. Otherwise, they'd be used for blanket coniferous forestry, which is, you know, incredibly damaging to the environment.
That is true. That is something that people, because I'm from the country, people never understood. They're like, oh, you're killing deer or you're killing whatever. And people like to come in from the city and say, stop killing stuff, but they don't really get it. Yeah. Would you, Leo, put a picture of yourself on Twitter with a big rhino or something that you've killed?
Not a rhino. I only kill things that I can eat. But my dad's a gunsmith, so, you know, I grew up shooting, like, from the age of 8. I've shot all kinds of stuff. And eating it. I eat it. I don't do it to stick a giraffe head on the wall.
Gunsmith sounds like you grew up in the 19th century or something, does it? My dad's a
We still got guns.
I know, it's just I love that word, gunsmith. Sorry.
It might be a good rule, though, that if you shoot anything, you have to eat all of it.
Yeah.
It would solve the problem of trophy hunters unless they were really... Well, I suppose you could preserve it. You're not allowed to preserve it, you've got to do it in one sitting.
Yeah, I mean, Americans might be all right still.
That was the big claim of the American Indians, wasn't it? It was, some people call them Native Americans, it was they used all of the buffalo, didn't they, famously?
Yeah. But it is...
I've got to say, people like that, as in, like, you use all of the carcass, that's a really healthy way of doing it. And yet modern technology creates, high-pressure mechanical recovery of the meat from within the joints, and apparently that's not good. That's using even more of the carcass.
Yeah. And it is weird how so many people eat meat but will criticise somebody for shooting an animal. Whereas, you know, people who eat meat, an animal's being killed. You've just outsourced it to somebody on minimum wage in a warehouse.
Tastes better that way, though, doesn't it? Tuesday's Daily Mail tells us that doctors shouldn't call out Mr. and Mrs., and not just because it's a humble brag, because they're all called Doctor. La-di-da, Leo.
So, yeah, according to... this is a suggestion that came from the Royal College of GPs conference in London, GP practices shouldn't call patients Mr. or Mrs. in waiting rooms in order to be more inclusive to the LGBT community. It's been suggested, which is bizarre, because obviously a lot of LGBT people are Mr. or Mrs., you don't, decide, you don't transition and then decide you're going to be called, Savlon or, Captain Nightbus. And they say, as well as ditching gender titles, another recommendation was getting staff to wear pronoun badges, such as they, she, or he, so that patients feel at ease. I know, I'd feel baffled if, Dr. Brian was telling me he's called a he. He's obviously called he.
Went well for Halifax, didn't it, the pronouns badges?
Yeah, but you can't really close your account at the doctors, at the NHS.
It's a monopoly in that sense.
Yeah, sadly, it's still a monopoly.
Miss two appointments and you get taken off the books. That's how it seems to work. But this is one of those classic Daily Mail stories where the headline makes it seem like if you go to your doctors tomorrow, they will not say Mr. and Mrs. at you, but it's actually a suggestion that was made, an anonymous suggestion that was made maybe by someone who works for the Daily Mail thinking this is a great way to plan the story, just at a conference. So it might not happen.
It's good to get the left-wing conspiracy take. Well, let's be honest, the doctor just reads out the full name anyway these days. They read your full name, they don't, in my experience. But this story did annoy me because they had a brainstorming session. They're like, oh, we could put up LGBT flags. We could have lanyards and pins. And it's just like, what is that going to do? And what they've written here is it doesn't cost you anything, and that it will make people in the LGBT plus community know they're not going to face hostility. But it won't do that at all. I was speaking to a gay person just last night. He was saying he doesn't like all that stuff. We know because it now implies for a lot of people pride, the corporate thing of pride, and perhaps the sort of anti-gender critical side, the sort of, the trans versus gender critical side. It's not even the case that it even makes... It makes a lot of people feel uncomfortable. They're like, why is this being pushed on as this weird pride stuff, this corporate stuff? And it makes also gay people feel uncomfortable. Yeah.
Well, yeah, last night, the guy who was in the audience of Free Speech Nation was saying, this makes him feel unsafe and feel excluded because, and a lot of, children are being encouraged to transition that, would have turned into...
Yeah.
gay adults.
Yeah, it's not clear that it's just this great thing. And making bathrooms gender neutral is another big thing that can make patients more comfortable, medics said. Everyone I know hates gender neutral bathrooms. So,
especially after Nick has run in an ad break, peed all over the floor and not washed his hands.
And it's, I always wash my hands. And it says GPs, the rest of the street, it says GPs also suggested that staff could have regular meetings to ensure biases aren't creeping in. Get lost.
But again, an anonymous suggestion in a box at a conference. I always think for actual bit of balance, it is worth saying, my missus recently gave birth, got this new son, and through the entire process, everyone called her mother, everyone called her woman. All those things that the Daily Mail will tell you that they're not even allowed to say. Actually, you still say. I mean,
but my wife's pregnant, and she's had leaflets or emails or something that refer to her as a birthing person.
But no one's called her that to her.
Not directly to her face, but it's still dehumanising to get it in a...
Is she Scottish?
Yeah. No,
she's not. Because I can say, the moment you call a Scottish person a birthing body, you're getting smacked straight away.
Tuesday's Telegraph, you'd have to expect Minions to be evil. So why is this even a story, Nick?
Yeah, well, this is interesting. This is teenagers disrupt cinemas by mimicking Minions for social media trend. This is the gentle Minions, they're calling themselves, and it's a TikTok trend. So, unfortunately, it's led to View in Worcester issuing £1,300 worth of refunds because they like to get loud and clap and cheer and have fun watching the Minions film. Absolute nightmare if you're in the cinema with them. And I hate noise in a cinema. At the same time, it is pretty cool because it's a bunch of young men dressing up in suits. It's pretty based. It's kind of like, it's got a fun, subversive vibe. They've got cigars, they're wearing bow ties and stuff, and they're coming in and messing up the Minions. And it's just kicked off as like a fun... I mean, I sound old, but it's like a fun, subversive trend, and it's indicative of the edgy humour we see on TikTok.
Nick, you sound about 8 years old. Saying this is based and cool and all the rest of it. I don't know, for me, this is a reminder that shootings in cinemas aren't always a tragedy.
No, but they're all wearing suits. They're dressed smartly, or they're young men sorting out their lives.
Watching Minions.
Watching Minions.
Oh, my God. We won't need any abortions at this rate. No young men are ever going to be able to procreate.
Are you calling them incels?
You also have to remember, though,
young men having a great time.
It's a cinema, so it's probably something like 33 quid for a ticket these days. So if you've paid... one presumes you're taking your child to go and see the Minions. But, you know, no judgment if you're going to sit there on your own eating your popcorn looking like a weirdo. But if you take your family, that's laying down some serious money. Yeah. Then all of a sudden, these lads turn up having a great time and wasting all your money.
They'll ruin your night, absolutely. Yeah. But you'll be able to get a refund. I suppose you won't be able to get the time back.
But they should do special screenings like they do with like the Rocky Horror Picture Show and stuff like that.
I'm torn because part of me thinks it's a cool, edgy, counterculture, conservative movement, but I've made most of that up from the fact that they're wearing suits. And so if it is that, I'm for it. If it's not that, I'm against it.
Yeah, I'm wearing a suit and you're against me, so I don't think it necessarily...
I wouldn't say against, Steve.
No, in a friendly way. Tuesday's Daily Mail tells us there's a woke badge for Scouts, effectively, Leo.
Oh, you're going to love this one as well, Steve. So Scout leaders have issued a new woke style guide banning children from using the terms falling on deaf ears, man-made and dinner ladies. Now, instead of playing Chinese whispers, which is what happens when you speak into a CCTV camera outside the Home Office, instead of playing Chinese whispers, they'll play broken telephone, which is what happens when you're using a Chinese telephone and Huawei download the code to immobilise it. And children are told not to use down under to refer to Australia or New Zealand in case it offends, like, Aussies. Aussies are never going to get offended by being referred to as down under. I don't understand any of this. And this comes after the Scout Association is already facing a backlash after introducing a trans fun badge for members as young as 4. They also get bisexual fun badges, a lesbian fun badge and a pride fun badge. Which is weird because it's all stuff that relates to sex. You know, if you're sexually active, it shouldn't be something taught at Scouts. Although I suppose it is. You know, it's good that they're keeping the tradition going of getting sexually interfering with the people they're looking after.
It is very annoying, Steve. Perhaps I've fallen into the Daily Mail's trap because it seems designed to annoy me. Dinner ladies being called school meal supervisors, maiden name being called previous name. The idea you can't say Christian name in a Christian country, which it used to be. And it's just depressing.
In 20 years' time, it won't be.
I know, well, it barely is now, but it's just depressing to see this. The Scouts of all people...
It's like two people at a bus stop. It's great.
Scouts.
Well, we'd never get a bus.
You just said a socially conservative thing. That wasn't
a limo company.
You're coming over to my side with that comment. But the Scouts is supposed to be about men getting together, going out into the violent wilderness and, you know, and having sort of rituals and becoming men.
Yeah, Bear Grylls stuff.
Right.
It's supposed to, like, gut a tauntaun and pull its carcass over your head so you don't freeze.
They're not
like
real,
that.
but yes, exactly. Yeah. But exactly, it's about men bonding and, you know, saying terrible things to each other, probably, in the woods, where it's safe.
Yeah.
Annoyingly, I read this story thinking, oh, it's the Daily Mail, so paragraph 15 will have the bit that says, oh, it's not actually real and it's just some website. Looks like it is real.
Yeah.
That's a shame, isn't it? Otherwise, I love puncturing these stories, but you can't on that one.
Nothing is safe.
Tuesday's Daily Mail and social media could be used to send compliments. I mean, I've never had one, Nick.
Social media for the snowflake generation, Morale app only lets users send compliments to friends. And the guy that's invented it, Aldwin Boscawan, says, my friends and I have always shared jokes and upbeat promotional messages on our group chats first thing in the morning. I'm thinking, a bit different to my group chats, but there are jokes in them. But I love the idea that his mates were all like, hey, mate, have a great one. You know, he said they put a boost, they gave me a boost and put a smile on my face, like, who are his mates? But they're not from the north, I can tell you. But so it's this app that's invite only and encourages users to send anonymous compliments. I don't know why they're anonymous. To me, that's creepy. Yeah. Like, you have a nice face. Who are you? You know what I mean? It'd be much nicer to get compliments from people you know, IMH show. I like an echo chamber, though. That's the part I like about it. I've made my Twitter. I've muted everyone who doesn't like me. And I like the sort of positivity echo chamber element of it.
I think this is a nonsense, like, just compliments getting sent between friends. Like, this is Britain. If Nick, not that I'm saying we're friends, we're more acquaintances, but if Nick sent me a compliment, I'd assume he was being sarcastic.
Yeah.
Anything
and I would be.
Complimentary would just come across as negative anyway.
Beautiful. The way it should be. Tuesday's Guardians, there's a new stamp and the We Fear Change Brigade are upset by it, or they're probably not sending letters.
Yeah, this one, this is in The Guardian. Not the Daily Mail, but so Dina Johnson. So she's worried because stamps are now coming with a little barcode, like a QR code, but not a QR code, because apparently they're copyrighted, so you can't use them. You've got to pay money to use them. But yeah, so stamps are going to come with a little barcode next to the Queen's head, and this woman. Basically, some nerd is upset about barcodes on stamps. That's the whole story. I don't know how The Guardian got so many pages out. It's absolute nonsense.
It's funny you said the thing about the Against Change Brigade. All I've written is, I'm against change. I've given this a stamp of disapproval. Am I right?
Yeah.
The part that it said they look like QR codes, but apparently are not QR codes. I'm thinking, apparently, that's what the WEF says. And then we're in the cashless society eating bugs.
Although, interestingly...
With a social credit score based on stamps.
Before we had stamps, like the way postage was paid for, the recipient would have to pay postage. So you'd get and you wouldn't even know what it was. You'd have to pay. It's like a gamble. Like what's his face? Noel Edmonds.
You could shock people by sending them stuff.
But some people didn't have to. Like MPs and peers could post items for nothing, and they were writing apparently, but in the 1830s, writing 7 million letters a year.
Wow. Let's end on this story. Tuesday's Telegraph, probably the saddest thing we could find: dog cancer, Leo.
Oh, yes, so dogs can get cancer just by sniffing each other. There's a rare disease called canine transmissible venereal tumour, which can jump between the animals when they smell each other's intimate areas. Male animals are most at risk. Another example of biology having a bias against men. So, yeah, it's really sad. Although, apparently, dogs can sniff out cancer in humans. But I don't think humans can sniff out cancer in dogs.
Well, I wouldn't get too close by the sound of it. Well, sorry, Nick, we're out of time on that. And thank you to my guests tonight, Leo Kearse and Nick Dixon. Headliners will be back same time tomorrow for more of the same. See you then.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
On Mark Dolan tonight, we have a simple plan, which is to inform, stimulate and entertain in equal measure. It's all about getting your opinions on the national television airwaves. I love my viewer emails, mark@gbnews.uk. So do join me from 9 p.m. to midnight every Friday, Saturday and Sunday for big guests, big opinions and a big presenter. 6'5", don't you know? See you then on GB News.